Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to World of Warships, back to our Intermediate Player Guide series, part 36. Not exactly sure how I'm titling this video, but in essence, you're playing a game, you're playing a match, and you have found yourself going up against a super Unicum CV player. And you've come here potentially for advice. How much advice I will be able to offer you, we will see. You'll learn from some things we did to help us out in this battle and some things we could have done better in playing against the enemy CV player on this team who's just really, really good at playing aircraft carriers. More on that here shortly. But in an essence, if I was to summarize it, when you're going up against a super Unicum CV player, honestly, you are at the mercy of that CV player. If he wants you dead, you are just dead. If he decides to leave you alone, he leaves you alone. So you're at the mercy of the gods when it comes to an enemy super Unicum CV player. Now, my general advice is when you find yourself going up against a really competent enemy CV player, is you kind of treat them like, let's say, I don't know, depending on what country or nation you live in, this results will vary, but I think this translates well. Basically, you think of it as you're going up against a very angry hornet, and whenever you get close to that angry hornet, that wasp, that bee, if you will, he will leave his nest, come and attack you until you are far, far away. Most talented CV players in the game will focus on whatever threat is closest to them, or the ones they have exposed in terms of bringing down their, getting their DCP off onto cooldown, right, and then they can maybe get a permanent flood, fire, something like that. And so I am purposely using this island here to help me out with the enemy CV player, and he's still going for me. I was actually turning out here because the didn't want to be broadside to the GK. So he's actually called it really well, and he could have ignored me and just went for the battleship. So he actually had two options here to torpedo. Now thankfully he doesn't get a flood here, so I'm not going to DCP because why? He's not done with us yet. He's coming right back in to drop another strike on us. And you can see I already have a heal going. We're going to take another, I think this is going to be 3 torpedoes here. And oofda. Now, part of the challenge, especially as a cruiser in World of Warships, I like to try to position myself somewhat towards the medium range at the start of the battle, mainly because I want to support my friendly submarine and friendly destroyer on this flank who are actively hunting down a submarine. If they're able to kill this submarine, it's going to open up things for us really massively here. And that sub player is indeed coming up. But you can also, of course, you get players who kind of get very fixated on killing enemy subs, so even if it costs them their lives, they just relentlessly pursue the enemy submarine, that's what you're going to see here. But I'm trying to eliminate torture, because I can't deal with a CV, and I can't deal with the submarine on this flank, so very important to get rid of the submarine here. And survey says, yeah, first blood. And we're in a kiting out position. But back to talking about CV players. Now, I said that this CV player is really good, and there's going to be no hate or dissing for me on said CV player. The dude is a beast. He's playing the Tier 10 British aircraft carrier. And guess how high his win rate is in the ocean? It's not 60, it's not 65, it's over 70% win rate. And he even has other aircraft carriers he plays even better in, like Colossus, where he has an 85% win rate. Now, granted, he only has 21 battles played in Colossus. In Ocean, he has 27 battles. But he has another CV that's even higher. The Kaga, 100% win rate. But that's only with 8 battles played. So when you've played the game for a longer period of time, you kind of begin to get a feel quite quickly of if you're dealing with a really competent destroyer player, cruiser, battleship player, CV player. So as I said, let's kind of go through some helpful advice when it comes to dealing with Super Unicum CV players. Now, one, as I said up front, you are very much at the mercy of a Unicum, especially a Super Unicum CV player. If he wants you dead, he will just focus you down, even if it's at the expense of his planes. Because as he focuses down a particular ship, he tends to take out and knock out the AA, right? If he's using rocket planes or dive bombers, your AA defenses on said ship become increasingly weakened. Now, the only thing that saves me this game is the fact that we're in arms race, because we're going to have to deal with the CV again more later. He's not done with us yet. So he's going to come back again. But having arms race is helping us a lot here with the hit points. But, you know, as they tuck out your AA, it becomes even more increasingly difficult for you to thwart the attacks of an enemy CV player. And you can see, like, you know, what part of the CV work is that it was supposed to eliminate cross drops. Okay, his first attack on us was a cross drop. We were trying, well, I didn't do it very well, but I was trying to avoid getting broadside shot clapped by the GK. And then we ate torps one side and immediately ate torps on the other side. And you're going to see even another example of this here a little bit later when he decides to focus us again. But as you're seeing, even on the mini-map, he's focusing, again, think of a Super Unicum CV player as like a hornet. You get too close to the nest, too close to the aircraft carrier, he'll focus you. And he's focusing, I think it's our Iowa, up to the north there. Which sucks for him, so we do want to see if we can help him out here and maybe whittling down this Buffalo. So we are going to pop our spotter plane here as well, because the longer he lives, the longer the CV player won't mess with us. Okay, so we've established that you're basically at the mercy of a CV player. So what can you do to help yourself out? Well, one is managing your damage control party well. You know, don't blow it. You're going to see me actually do that the next time he goes for us. I wasn't thinking, and I blow my DCP. So he ends up getting a permanent flood on us because he attacks us again with torpedo bombers. So you want to wait till the attack is completely done before you blow your damage control party. Because that's just not good for you all said and done. You're going to lose more hit points because of that. The next thing you can do, you know, is to not be too close in proximity to him, you know, especially if you're needing to heal up, which you're going to see an example of this later, where I back off dramatically because I want to restore my hit points, and we have the arms race, the HP regeneration buff ticking in. So I want to heal up so then I can push back in again. And maybe as time goes on, said enemy CV player has less planes at his disposal. Which so far doesn't seem to be the case. He seems to still be utilizing full squadrons, which just sucks. But, you know, maybe you'll be able to get what you do have remaining. You can kind of shoot down a couple of planes, so maybe he won't get 2 attacks off on you from 1 squadron. So backing off is important. The other thing, which is you can have mild success on, is also having to deal with trying to position yourself closer to your teammates so you can have overlapping AA. Not that that works fantastic in World of Warships, but it is something to consider. You know, part of the reason even here, like you see me kiting out on the main, I mean, I didn't want to go toe-to-toe with the main, but if I would have kept pushing it on the main, I was pretty certain that the CV player would just go for me. So I decided to back out, and I already see he's coming in on me and to the left there. So now I'm beginning to already turn out. Because we're kind of the closest to him at this point, as he's kind of moving back in this general direction. So we prioritize our AA. We're turning out a way to avoid the strike. It's important to understand, you know, Ocean would have torpedoes that essentially go like so. So we're turning out. I lost my steering gear and in flooding, and I go ahead and DCP there, which was dumb. And he already has another strike coming right in on us immediately. This having 3 torpedoes instead of 4. But we're going to eat all 4. And now I'm flooding and my engine is knocked out. So that's a mistake. I messed up there, and now I'm like, please give me AA support, because I understand my life is very much in the hands if I have any teammates that are willing to support me. I really want to live as much as I can. The main being dead is massive here because the ocean would just keep spotting us for the main. But then also at the same time, there's a pioneer, I think, that's pushing back in. You can see he's in that ocean smoke screen. So I'm like, do I shoot? It's like, nah, let's just get behind the island. And I'm moving back towards my teammates. Now he's using the planes that fly really fast on us, which sucks. So I'm like, ah, crap. Is he going to come for us again? Because I don't have another heal for 38 seconds. And he's not. He's just decided to go for the Andalusia. And gets a little bit of a strike off there. So pushing back into your teammates, as you see them doing here, it might pose a way for the CV to decide, instead of striking you, because he doesn't want to spend as much time in the Andalusias and the Hanover's AA just to get back to me behind them to strike me. He might end up deciding it's better. I will lose less planes if I go ahead and go for the immediate closest target. So that's a bit of a wisdom from him in that sense. But it also enables us to live as our HP regeneration is kicking in. And you can see me spamming the T key to get my heal back in. And now he's going to focus the Hanover, right? So I have decided, we're going to kind of reposition over to here to deal with these, the two battleships, the Maine and Musashi over here on the 8 line. So I have decided that we're going to play it safe. We're going to back off, and we're going to take time to recover hit points. So, again, I needed to talk a little bit about the gameplay there. Treat CV like a hornet nest. Be mindful to wait until the attack is over before using your damage control party. Don't blow it early like you just saw me do so there. Don't be afraid to fall back if you need to kind of recover hit points, as you see we're doing now. Utilize teammates AA, or just being in combat tactical positioning surrounded by other teammates, so you have overlapping AA, and that CV player might also decide to strike someone else, and one of your teammates instead of you, as you see Pioneer just got Hanover, but to strike another one of your teammates instead of you to buy you more time. Now, the only reason that basically we're alive and living so far is because of the arms race HP regeneration. Normally the ocean player, he would have been even more successful if we didn't have the HP regeneration buff, which is great for us all said and done, as our often takes out Musashi. Other advice I can give you would be, we are going to actually engage the enemy CV player here shortly as well. But to do so, we need to free up our team's resources. So getting rid of the devastation here, or sorry, not devastation, the main is really helpful here. I'm also want to support the Holland here and shooting at the Pioneer, because he's in danger and we need to keep the Holland alive, so I give him a wells done for backing off and dipping it behind the island. But we want to focus out the other enemy players here, because that's going to make life very miserable. Like you saw earlier when I was turning out away to not want to be clapped broadside by a GK, like we basically ate the full firepower of the enemy CV player. So if we're going to have any success here, main needs to go before I'm able to push back in to deal with the Pioneer in the ocean. So that's important. So now we can basically just push right in and focus on pushing into the key zone, and I'm going to do so with Andalusia. Now the Andalusia and myself, we are very poor in terms of, well, I think we're mediocre. Maybe Andalusia is worse than me, I don't remember. In terms of our AA strength, we're not AA ships, right? Ideally, if you're going up against a super Unicum CV player, you want to have a strong AA cruiser. But there's no way to guarantee that one, if you're going to get a CV in the matchmaking, two, is that CV player talented, or is he just a dodo brain, as it were. So that's kind of the luck of the draw, if you will. Even though Holland here is an AA specialty kind of destroyer, and he's still struggling. I mean, look at how many planes I have shot down. I've got 34,000 damage to planes, and I've only shot down 8 planes. So that's a bit weak overall. Like normally we'd want to see more planes shot down for that amount of damage. But when you have CV players who are talented, they build into the hit points and the armor of their planes. It's just more difficult to take them out. They're more successful with their strikes and able to retain their planes all said and done. Now, there's another point I thought of, and I'm spacing that now when it comes to talking about these super Unicum CV players. But I was talking about the ship class. You know, this is actually a really cool moment here I want to highlight. So the Pioneer is low. I was wondering was if maybe the Holland would get the successful torps off, but I think a couple of torps hit the corner of the island, so I missed. I'm still going to blind fire, and the devastation is actually going to be a Chad here, and he's going to send in a blind shot as well. Yoink, gets him, because if the Ocean ends up spotting me or the Andalusia, you know, he starts farming us for free, and you can see he actually just dropped a smoke screen there for the Pioneer. So that works out really well for us. That devastation wasn't afraid to take a blind shot with his 16 guns. So excellent, excellent stuff. Other things I can give you in terms of advice in dealing with Super Unicum, Unicum CV players. Well, I mean, it kind of goes without saying, but, you know, if you can try to maneuver your ship, you know, to avoid the strike. So it's important to know what attack patterns, or what do you call it, ellipse circles that the strikes have. Whether you're talking about dive bombers, you know, some dive bombers like the German, like Richthofen over here, and I think Harkuyu, they have a very vertical, tall, like, circle, where others have, like, can have more of, like, a round circle, and others can have more of a widened horizontal circle, if you will. So then you know how to reposition. You know, I think there's a couple of rocket attack strikes that are vertical, and then others that are horizontal, and some that are just round. So trying to maneuver to buy yourself as much time and mitigating the damage you're taking is very helpful. You know, also not being afraid to just kind of full send it into the torpedoes. You know, maybe the arming radius, the torpedoes won't arm yet, right? There's a certain threshold that they distance need to travel in order before they arm. So sometimes you can push right into it and then hit the torpedo and it's not armed yet, so you take no damage. That's pretty helpful. Now the Andalusia is lower than us here. We're popping off another heal. Ocean gets to smoke itself up. I think it's dumb that aircraft carriers get to smoke themselves up in World of Warships, but that's just me. But if it's a trick consumable you got, definitely use it. Utilize islands. So, you know, I'm pushing, you know, bow into the island here, and I don't know if he was actually gonna go for us there, but we're not such a lucrative target. It messes up with the attack. So utilizing islands is really helpful as much as you can, you know, but of course if he's like dive bombers and it's like, well, that kind of sucks. And you really want to keep moving as much as possible. You don't really want to be sitting still ever with it when a CV's there and attacking. You want to keep moving. You know, here I was killing my speed to turn in, but a CV can wreck you if you decide to kind of sit still or be really slow. That's why they love shooting battleships, particularly because they tend to have such a poor acceleration, rudder shift time, so on and so forth. So drop comments down below. Other helpful advice. There's probably a couple other things I didn't think about, as that Richthofen there just took a massive hit. But we do get this really incredibly good CV player off the board, all said and done, landing us over 201,000 damage, 3 kills, with 13 planes shot down, the expert efficiency badge with Confederate in first blood. I don't feel like we were too far from a dreadnought that game, but maybe things were a little different since it was an arms race. I don't know. So all said and done, we did good this game. With 2,600 base XP, our devastation did really good working the other flank. Holland, you know, Richthofen was using his fighter planes to support and cover as well. And we almost took 100,000 damage. You know, we shouldn't have been able to take that much damage. Yeah, if it was an arms race, we would have died. But because it was, you know, we took almost 100k. And then potential of 31,000 spotting. And most of the damage, of course, being our high explosive and some with our AP. And then over 500,000 credits, all said and done. So with that being said, if you find yourself going up against a super Unicum CV player, then the gods be with you. Otherwise, you're just pretty much at their mercy. That's kind of how the game is here in 2026, 2025, 2024. It's really frustrating, even if you team up with other teammates to try to mitigate their decisiveness and attack. Like I've seen CV players fly into 3-4 enemy ships and still get 2 strikes off on an enemy ship, even though there's 3-4 AA bubbles shooting that CV player at the same time in his planes. So that's just really frustrating. You go back into the day of like RTS, like you had certain ships in the game that were no-fly zones. Like, do you know how likely it would be here in 2026, especially even, if you had ships in the game again that were no-fly zones? Like, let's say even their AA or their main battery wasn't excellent, but it was kind of average, mediocre, but they carried this like insanely deadly AA strength. I mean, that'd be pretty wild, and even monetize that. I think that would be a really good seller in the game. It's kind of the create the problem, sell the solution type of mentality that gaming developers can easily do. And we're slowly getting some stronger AA cruisers in the game. I think recently Brisbane and Minotaur got dethroned by another ship in the game that I'm spacing now what one that was. But it'd be fun to have like, hey, don't fly into me. Now, this sets apart the Super Unicum CV players versus an average CV player is that the Unicum and Super Unicum are really good about dodging flak, AA shell explosions, where you can have more of that average to bad CV players who just fly into the flak and just, oh, I got 8 kills simultaneously. So skill definitely makes a CV, I mean any class in the game, but particularly among CVs more than any other class in the game, if you have really good skill, you can completely lopside a match if you have a Super Unicum CV player on the enemy team, and then yours is like a 45% CV player. I mean, that alone can just, completely throw the match in the enemy team's favor in that kind of situation. So, anyhow, I hope some of the advice here has been helpful for you today. With that being said, if you liked today's video, give a thumbs up. If you didn't, give a thumbs down. Subscribe if you want to see more. If you're subscribed, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Thank you to Patreon supporters. Until next time, take care.